What's up guys, welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be testing the Hero 5 against the Hero 6. The GoPro camera has kind of become the go-to action camera on the market today, and I've had my GoPro Hero 5 for about a year now, and I've taken it to Hawaii, California. I've taken this thing snorkeling. I've taken it four-wheeling on the Razor, taken it out, done some slow motion stuff with it. I've beat the heck out of it. It's fallen off the Razor, broken the doors off of it. I've done just about everything, nicked this little lens cover here, just beat the crap out of it, and it's still working great. So great little action camera. I've really liked it. With this video, we're going to try to accomplish, is the GoPro Hero 6 worth upgrading from the 5? Or if you're thinking about buying a 5 or a 6, which one should you buy? First off, before we go out and test these two cameras and actually put them to use, let's look at the specs and the difference between the two cameras. So with the Hero 6, they claim they've improved the image stabilization, the slow motion, and better low light performance. So on the spec sheet, the main differences are the frame rates that the cameras shoot in. So in the Hero 6, in 4K, it'll shoot anywhere from 24 all the way up to 60 frames per second. Compared to the Hero 5, it shoots 4K between 24 and 30 frames per second. And then in 2.7K, the Hero 6 will shoot anywhere from 24 to 120 frames per second. So supposedly on paper, the slow motion should be really good out of the Hero 6. Compared to the Hero 5 in 2.7K, it'll shoot up to 60 frames per second. And then in 1080, the Hero 6 will shoot an actual 240 frames per second compared to the Hero 5 shoots in the 1080 at 120 frames per second. I've heard some very mixed reviews online about the Hero 6. I've heard a lot of bad stuff, heard some good stuff, just really different opinions from people. So what I want to do is go out and test this Hero 6 for myself and compare the differences to the 5. So let's switch from the Canon camera that I'm shooting on right now to the GoPro Hero 6. Alright guys, now we're shooting on the GoPro Hero 6. So we're heading out in the middle of the desert, little Sahara sand dunes in Utah. We've got the YFZ 450 there trailing behind me. Going to test out the GoPros, the Hero 6, the Hero 5. Primarily going to be looking for some of the image stabilization improvements out of the Hero 6 to see if there's any improvement from the Hero 5. Supposedly they've made some changes there that's going to make the stabilization better in some of the higher frame rates and whatnot, so we'll check that out. Sheep! Sheep! Oh, don't get ran over, sheep! Gonna hit that one. Guys, about ready to take these GoPros out for a ride. You can see I've got the GoPro Hero 5 there connected to my helmet. I'm going to connect the Hero 6 here to my chest. I've got them set both at 2.7K image stabilization. Alright guys, so I thought I was shooting with the image stabilization on. In these frame rates, the GoPro Hero 6 or the Hero 5 automatically turns the image stabilization off. So as I'm flying up Sand Mountain on the quad here, going through all the whoops and hitting all the bumps, I was thinking the image stabilization would be on. However, it's not on. So it's really, really shaky going up this mountain here. Now, had I turned the frame rates to a lower frame rate, the image stabilization would have turned back on. I didn't realize that the GoPro automatically turns image stabilization off in certain higher frame rates that it can't hold that image stabilization on. All right, guys, it's freaking awesome out here. I'm on the backside of Sand Mountain. There's nobody out here. With the Hero 6 in 2.7K at 120 frames per second, if you look at the sky, it almost looks like there's clouds going on in the sky, but it's actually just like an image defect. I really don't like the way the GoPro looks in this high frame rate. If you turn it down to 60 frames per second, that completely goes away. Okay, this shot was done on the backside of Sand Mountain, shooting at 2.7K at 120 frames per second. So what I've noticed in this resolution at this frame rate, there's some kind of weird defect into the image quality that I'm not real fond of. Okay, now with the Hero 6 and 2.7K at 60 frames per second, you can see that that defect in the sky has gone away and the image stabilization is on. So now as I go over the bumps, everything is really smooth and the picture actually looks really good. And this is where both the GoPros really come alive, is anything lower than 60 frames per second, it really smooths the image out and gives a lot better picture. Okay, so now when we take a look at the Hero 5, the image isn't quite as stable, and if you look at the colors, the color science is quite a bit different from the Hero 6 to the Hero 5. That's where you see the biggest difference between these two GoPros, is you definitely get a better image stabilization out of the Hero 6, and the color science is just a little bit better, where you get a little bit cooler looking image. All right, guys, that's enough riding for today. It's been a blast. Let's head on home. Yo, bros. All right, guys, that was an epic time. It was awesome. Love the sand dunes. It's always a great time. I don't know if I got any good footage or not. It's kind of hard to shoot out there in the sand on the quad, and you're trying to ride, and it's just one of those things. It's kind of hard to do. So we'll check it out. I think the rest of the day, probably head up to Park City. I'm going to spend the night there. It's an old mining town by my house. Wife and I will spend the night there, and I might bring the GoPros, do a little bit more footage while we're up there.
We can sleep under the stars, we can sleep under the stars, under the stars.
Okay, so now let's take a look at the GoPros in a low light situation. This is the GoPro Hero 6 in a low light situation, and actually looks pretty good. I mean, you can make it out. Compared to the Hero 5, it's just super dark, super fuzzy, you can hardly see anything. So definitely with the Hero 6, they've made some improvements in the low light.
Let's make the most of this night. Come on, baby, take my hand.
So overall, I really like the Hero 6. I feel like they've done some improvements with the image stabilization, especially in the lower frame rates. I really like the color science that they've put in the new Hero 6. One thing to keep in mind, if you have a 5 and a 6, it's really hard to get these two to match in your editing and your color grading after. You can get pretty close messing with the saturation and adjusting the colors to get it to look like the Hero 6. But if you have a 5 and a 6, there's a pretty big difference in the color science, which makes it noticeable when you're putting a video together and it's going between different scenes between the 5 and the 6. So keep that in mind. If you already have a 5, you may want to get another 5 if you're looking to have 2 cameras. I'm still not 100% convinced that GoPro has really improved the frames per second in these really high frame rates, like the 240 and the 120. It just doesn't seem to look quite right. I don't think they've really improved that a ton. Maybe if I played with the settings a little bit more, I could get a little bit better image quality out of it. However, I feel like it shoots really, really well, and anything below 60 frames per second, it maintains that image quality that I'm looking for. I just feel like in the 120 and the 240 frames per second, it does sacrifice some image quality. So if you're looking for a really awesome slow motion camera, this does have those frame rate capabilities, is a little bit lower than say some of the higher end DSLR cameras with the higher frame rates at 120. All right guys, so if you're thinking about upgrading from the Hero 5 to the Hero 6, I don't know that it's really worth it. Now, it is definitely better in the image stabilization. It crops the picture down much less in the Hero 6 versus the 5 and keeps the picture looking very stable. However, the improved slow motion is just kind of maybe a little bit better, not a ton better. It is quite a bit better in the low light, so if you need a GoPro to perform better in the low light, the Hero 6 is going to do better. I really haven't had any problems with my Hero 6. I've read some reviews online of people saying they're overheating or different problems with them glitching. Mine hasn't done any of that. In fact, I've had more issues with my Hero 5 in the last year of it shutting down or not wanting to record, and just kind of some weird glitchy stuff that I've had to restart the camera to get it to work correctly, and I actually haven't had that with the Hero 6. So overall, if you're thinking about buying either the 5 or the 6 and you don't have an action camera already, I would definitely go with the 6. I do like the image science that they put in it, the better stabilization, the better low light. So overall, I do feel like it is a better camera and probably worth the extra money that you're going to spend. Well, that's it guys. Thanks for watching this video. I hope it helped you make a decision whether or not you're going to buy a Hero 5 versus the 6. If you like this video, make sure you hit that like button. And if you haven't subscribed already, consider subscribing, and we'll see you in the next video.